All right, so I'm going to write an article. I've got an article for Inc. coming up, and I figured I'd show my writing process. Um, Let me give you a little bit of background on how that process works. First of all, with Inc., when I write for Inc., I have a phone call with my editor, Danielle, and we review some topics that have been on my mind, or we talk a little bit about what's been going on at work, and she might say, oh, what about this? What about that? And I might go, oh, yeah, I can maybe write about this, but in this context. And we kind of play with a couple ideas over 20, 30 minutes. And then we land on a topic. She then goes to, I think, the editor-in-chief, I believe. I'm not exactly sure what his role is, but she goes to someone over there and says, what do you think of this topic? They give it the okay. She gives me the okay, and then it's off for me to write. I hand something in, should be between 600 and 800 words, and then we do a round or two of edits, and then it gets published. I don't pick the headline. She does. Editors always pick the headline or write the headline, and then she shows it to me before it goes live, and we might have a couple back and forths on that as well. But so anyway, let me write an article. The topic this issue for me is going to be the illusion of agreement, which is sort of an oldie but goodie topic for me, and at Basecamp and 37 Signals before that, which is it's very hard to get people to agree on something for sure, for real, unless they're looking at something. That normally when people talk about something and they're not looking at something, they all have different visions of that thing in their mind. So they think they're agreeing with somebody else because they see something and they assume the other person's seeing the same thing, but oftentimes they're not. So we always try to look at something real at Basecamp when we're doing work, so we don't imagine what we're looking at. Because if you imagine what you're looking at, you can reach an illusion of agreement. And so that's the idea. Now, when I write, I don't have an outline. I just start writing. And the way I think about writing is I basically talk through my fingers. I think a lot of people get stuck when they're writing because they think about writing. But if you were to ask them about a topic, they could just tell you about the topic. But when they have to sit down and write, they somehow think about writing differently than talking. I tend to write the way I speak. So I just write through my fingers, and that's sort of what happens. So I'm just going to go. I don't know how this is going to end up. I might do some director's cut style talking while I'm typing. It also might be boring and quiet and silent. I don't know how this will end up. But if there's an interesting thing that I'm thinking about, I'll mention it. Here's how it would start, though. I kind of try to lead with a bit of a sort of either a specific example or a conceptual example. So, and by the way, I still have this big cut on my finger, so I have this weird Band-Aids thing set up, and my typing's not great, so I might be misspelling a bunch of stuff and having to go back and fix it, or slowly fixing errors, so I apologize for that ahead of time. All right, so I'd say, here's how I'd probably start. By the way, I'm always a little bit nervous when I type and I'm recording my screen when someone's watching over my shoulder, so I make more errors when I guess I get self-conscious about this when I'm typing. All right, so have you ever thought about, or have you thought you agree with someone? You were certain, yes, totally, we agree. But then, uh, all right. Basic premise here is, you ever thought you agreed with someone? You know, you were certain, yeah, we talked it over, totally, got it, yep. Then they go off and build this thing, and they come back and show it to you, and you're like, wait, how do we end up there? Because that's not what I thought we were going to do. So, okay, so that's sort of how I would probably open up this article. And again, this is sort of my first draft of things. So I'd start there. Then I go, I usually kind of, I'm introducing an idea, a concept, so I'll usually capitalize it and go throw some quotes around it just to say this is a thing, and then I don't do that as we move forward. But all right, so at this point, I'm sort of trying to head somewhere with this article. My point is like, well, I'm getting to the point, I guess. And sometimes I take too long to get to the point. But anyway, this is what I'm doing. I'm running live. This is what happens. So here's how I'm thinking about this. Start off with sort of an example, and then I get to the sort of the definition of it, and then I say it's sort of broad. It's not just about work. It's actually about a variety of things. And it's usually about when two people have something in their head, and that's where the illusion creeps in, the head. That's sort of weird. I'm going to get rid of that. It just doesn't... maybe that's when the illusion creeps in. There are two more. Maybe, and I think I'll go, and that's when the illusion creeps in. Okay. Here's the problem. You have something in your head. Sometimes I talk out loud when I'm typing. Let's see, each seeing. We're each seeing something, we're each seeing a different scene. How does that read? Let's see. I like that. We're each seeing a different scene. So what I'm going to get at here is like, this isn't a public stage, it's backstage. It's maybe it's what I'm trying to get at here is that it's not public, it's backstage, but it's not backstage in a shared way. It's a separate backstage. Let's see. Maybe I'm getting too deep into this metaphor here, but I kind of like it still. I'll just leave it at that for now. Sometimes, you know, here's something that I try not to do is get caught up. I don't want to get stuck. Yeah, I don't love that. I like the idea, but I don't love the way I phrased it. I'm just gonna let it go. Like maybe I'll come back to it. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just hand it in to Danielle, and she can say, it didn't quite come together. Maybe she likes it. I don't know. We'll see. Don't know yet, but I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to edit too much as I'm writing. I do a little bit, but not so much. Okay. So here's the problem. You have something in your head, I have something in mine. He has something in his, she in hers. We all think it's the same thing because we're agreeing out loud. And that's kind of the point, by the way, is that we're verbally agreeing, but inside in our own minds, we're each seeing a different scene. I can only see mine, you can only see yours. This isn't a public stage, it's backstage. So again, this doesn't quite, my idea is there, but it's not quite right yet. Fine. Backstages. So even though I don't love this angle here, I'm going to bring it through because I think I'll resolve it later. And I think it just might take a word or two to do that. All right. So actually, this is from my perspective. So at base camp, backstage, we try to avoid. This is something I always struggle with. I was going to state an absolute. I was going to say, whenever we do this, we do that. Of course, that's not the case. It's most of the time, or when it's convenient. Then I'm like, well, how much do I want to hedge here? Do I need to hedge? What's the best way to sort of describe this? I'll say let's see. I'm going to go absolute here just for a moment, just to kind of make the point and see if I need to soften it. Finger. So I don't know if these are going to be bold or italic, but I want to make the point to the editor that I want there to be some emphasis there. She may decide not to go with it or to go with it, but I kind of use those asterisks just to say, like, this is the important word here. So now I need to get concrete. I'm a little bit abstract here. So I'll give an example of something I looked at last week. So for example, let's see. For example, working on a new Basecamp feature right now that allows people to respond. So it's interesting to write this out and to explain it, because there's some context that I don't have in this article. So I'm trying to figure out like a way to sort of say it in a general sense. And this is something that's important to do when you're writing. I'm writing to a broad audience. I'm writing to the Inc. magazine audience, which is a very large audience, all sorts of different business owners. Some know what Basecamp does, some do not. Like I have to be careful not to get too inside baseball with this stuff and sort of assume people know about a particular feature or what I'm trying to get at. So I want to sort of generalize but not water it down too much. To post a short comment, usually positive, usually something that that includes positive reinforcement or a modicum of humor. Modicum, is that the right word for this? I mean, it is. How about a touch? That's better. A touch of humor. Or is there a helping of humor? I like helping because there's an alliteration there. A helping of humor. That's good. Now, okay. Here's what I'm going to say, actually. Since I went with the word helping, I kind of found my way into that word. I'm going to double down on that. So not or a helping, or serve up a helping of humor, right? That kind of completes the idea, to serve up a helping. Um, we're still okay. I'm not going to get into the naming thing. Now, up until this conceptually, but only I'm getting, this isn't quite the right, this is I'm sort of bunching a bunch of stuff together that could probably be polished up, but that's cool. We imagined the perfect cases for it. We considered how it might be used. Or actually, let me start with that. So we consider how it might be used. Oops, I forgot to copy that. We imagined we had our first so one thing that my editor likes to see is sort of more real world examples, and just sort of getting into, like, I could have said just a couple days ago we had our first design review, but she would always prefer, and I agree with her, that like we should just use names if we can and fill in the details. So Jonas, the designer leading the project, and I had our first design review. That helps to personalize it. It helps to kind of put someone in a setting and imagine a little bit about what's going on. We got right into it. He was outside Chicago. I was outside. Oops, skipped. Skyped isn't a word, apparently. We stopped talking and we started looking and using. Then we spotted some cracks. Okay. Now let's see. This is, I don't know if I'm liking this paragraph. Let's see. Let me jump back up to this paragraph. Just a couple days ago, Jonas and I had our first interview. We got right into it. He was outside Chicago, I was outside LA, so we Skyped and shared our screens. We stopped talking, we started looking and using the thing. He and Flora, the programmer leading the project. Well, technically she's not leading the project. Jonas is leading the project. So who's writing the code? Programmer who's working on then okay. Okay. I don't like this. I'm gonna cut this out, but I've got it pasted, right? So sometimes I'll just cut it and get rid of it. Other times what I'll do is I'll go down the document, I'll make a couple lines and just paste it down there and then come back up. So I'll get it out of my line of sight and maybe I'll come back to it, maybe I won't. There's something in here, but let me just focus in again on what I'm trying to say. Just a couple days ago, John said, we got it right. We got right into it. Okay. Only once we started using it did we recognize some of the unknowns. No, okay, what am I trying to say here? So if I was talking this out, what I would say, all right, okay, only once we started using it did the perfect picture shatter. I know that's a bit dramatic. Now, see how I'm just talking out loud and typing it? I know it's a bit dramatic, but okay, so now I want to get to like what eluded us. What was it that we hadn't imagined, or when we wrote it up, we thought we were like, we got this figured out. Although we did leave out a part, which was in the write-up, we didn't really get to how you'd implement one of these comments, which we were calling whispers in the initial version, which we may change. But anyway, we didn't get into like how do we actually make one of these. We saw once there was one that existed, it was easy for us, and all the mock-ups that we'd written up or explained, sketched up, showed what it looked like when there was multiple ones of these. But how'd you do the first one? And then we kind of knew that was a problem, but it's like you kind of paper it over, you're like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And we do. But then when it gets real, when you actually look at the thing, you're like, okay, this actually is something we have to solve pretty soon here, otherwise we can't really move on. So, all right. So what was the well, we'd but we hadn't make it easy. Let's see. Make it easy to all right, see now I'm kind of getting in the weeds here and I'm assuming too much and I don't like that because the reader is not going to, I'm sending the reader down a bit of a rabbit hole, a technical rabbit hole that's, so, all right, so I'm going to step back here and go, all right, okay, where do we start going a little bit off the rails here? Okay, everything was really tight up, like all this was tight, okay? And then we start. Then I'm into the part where I actually start using it, and I should actually say not the perfect picture here, the illusion. Let's see. How can I get to this point in a very sort of in a way I can explain to everybody without them knowing all the backstory? All right. So sometimes when I get into these binds, Like I can if I was writing this message to our company, I'd totally nail this because I can talk through the whole thing and there's backstory and context. In this case, I'm writing a public article without any backstory, without any context. So that's why I have to be careful here. Um, so I would start talking it out. I'd say, okay, so what was the problem we missed when we were just imagining the feature? Well, um, we we'd sort of skipped over this part. We skipped over the part where we figured it would just be easy to figure out how to initiate the feature. But it turns out that like it's actually a pretty subtle thing. This is a new idea. Okay, so all right, I got something here. So okay, so I'm deleting this. This is just whatever. Don't need it. When we wrote it up and hadn't used it, we glossed over the point. That's what I'm trying to get to. We glossed over the complexity of introducing the feature in the product. Not marketing it, but actually revealing it, encouraging someone to use it. Okay. It's so easy to say, we'll just when you don't have to do the work. And okay, by the way, I'm curious. 462 words. All right, good. So I've got like a paragraph, couple paragraphs to go here, and then I'll wrap it up. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds where I need a few more paragraphs to explain this, and maybe I'm trying to get too specific and I can make a general point. But let's see here. Oops. Okay. So I'm gonna kind of pile up a few things here around this. It's so easy to, so easy to, it's so easy to, and then I'm gonna say it's so revealing when. So revealing when. So I'm gonna add that and come back to it because I want to finish this idea here. So it's so easy to say we'll figure it out later when you don't have to do work. It's so easy to say yes when someone else says, got it. It's so easy to say, that's almost like saying yes. It's so easy to say, let's do it when someone else pitches. Let's see. We'll figure it out later when you have to do the work. It's so easy to say yes when someone else says got it. It's so easy to basically kick when you don't even realize. Does that make sense? I don't know. We'll see. But it's so maybe. What I'm trying to get to here is that it converts the hologram into the solid object. I know it's kind of weird, but maybe there's something there. That's weird. We found share the illusion of agreement, come to an actual agreement. Looking at something together does that. It's the only thing we've found. That's always true. All right. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to read this over really quickly. I will say that I think this is probably a B out of, at this point, maybe a B minus. I think there's some, I like how it starts. I think it's really strong. I think perhaps I may have picked a hard example to talk about. And so I'm in this situation here where, like, do I want to rewrite this whole part down? Or am I actually a bit too close to it? Maybe it's fine. I'm going to read it out loud again. I'm going to read it quickly and skim it out loud and see how I feel about it. Sometimes at this point, I'll submit it as is because I'll feel like, well, Danielle can really help me shape this up. Other times I wouldn't submit it because I'm like, this is too far off field or too far afield. Other times I'm like, spot on, this is going to be a great one. I think this one has the makings of being really great, but I think it's right now, or greats, I mean, like, it's not earth-shattering. So great is a bit of a stretch to begin with, but I think this is a solid article and a good lesson. I'm just not sure I totally hit it. Let's see though. All right, you ever thought you agreed with someone? We're getting into that. This is what we call this. It's not just about this kind of work, it's this kind of work. Now, so this is interesting. I didn't come around, I didn't come back to this. So this is actually kind of a weird spot in the article where I'm sort of referring to a few different things, but then I only pick one of the things. So maybe I can come back at the end and sort of decide that I want to wrap this up some other way, or maybe Danielle's going to be like, you know, this isn't quite, like, what's this about? Where's this headed? So we'll see when I get feedback. Here's the problem. Something I have, something I had. Okay, this is a really strong one. Backstage is what we try. Okay, this is that backstage thing again. I can only see mine. You can only see yours. This isn't a public stage. It's everyone. It's how about this? It's everyone's personal backstage. It's like everyone's in their own dressing room. So, okay, I may have extended this metaphor too far, but whatever. This sounds weird, right? Dressing rooms are what we try to avoid. That's just a weird thing. At base camp, how about we try to avoid these situations? Hang on, this is weird. I may have just kind of ruined something here. This isn't a public stage. It's everyone's personal backstage. It's like everyone's in their own dressing room, looking in the mirror. I don't know. God, am I taking this too far? Yeah, probably. But all right, whatever. I'm going for it. Basically, try to avoid situations. Whenever a few people are working something together, we always try to look at something rather than talk about it. We still talk. We talk a lot, but this time it's make decisions. For example, working on a new feature. Up until this point, we've been talking about this feature internally. Conceptually, it was super solid. We felt great about it. Okay. So just a couple days ago, we got right into it. He doesn't. Shatter is a bit dramatic. Okay. All right, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this as a first draft. There'll be I'm certain there'll be a good round of revisions. I think there'll probably be one round of revisions. I'll tighten up some of the stuff. Daniel asked me some questions where I need to kind of hone in on a few things, tie a few knots. But I think we're looking good as a first take. Cool. All right. Well, anyway, there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that. That was the first time I've ever done this. I hope it was fine and not super boring. Anyway, there we are. And maybe when I get the revisions back from her, I can do another video where I look at those and we craft this from this draft to final product and see how it goes. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Take care.